안녕하십니까. 대한민국 과학기술정보통신부 양자혁신기술개발과장 정성욱입니다. 먼저 퀀텀 프론티어 포럼에 참석해 주신 정부 그리고 연구기관, 산업계, 국제기구 관계자분들께 감사드립니다. 오늘 세션의 주제는 국가 양자 전략과 글로벌 협력의 연결입니다. 각국은 양자 기술을 미래 첨단 전략 산업 그리고 글로벌 안보, 공급망 그리고 양자 전환의 핵심 기반으로 보고 있으며, 이제 각국의 과제는 연구 개발에 대한 투자뿐만 아니라 이를 뒷받침하기 위한 산업 생태계와 국가 인프라를 어떻게 구축할지로 넘어가고 있습니다. 오늘 저는 이제 한국의 이런 관련된 양자 기술 분야 전략을 먼저 소개시켜 드리고, 그 전략을 어떻게 뒷받침하는 어떤 대표적인 양자 산업 생태계 조성 전략 그리고 인프라 구축 방향에 대해 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 먼저 그간의 정책 추진 경과입니다. 대한민국 정부는 올해 1월 양자 분야에서 두 건의 국가 핵심 정책을 수립했습니다. 첫째로는 양자과학기술 및 산업 육성 종합계획입니다. 이는 국가 차원의 양자 분야 비전을 설정하고 어떤 정책 방향을 제시하는 최상위 계획입니다. 그리고 둘째로는 양자 클러스터 기본 계획입니다. 이는 양자 산업화를 주도하기 위한 정책으로 지역 주력 산업의 양자 전환을 이끄는 혁신 거점 구축을 목표로 하고 있습니다. 아울러 양자 기술의 체계적이고 안정적 육성을 위한 제도적 기반인 양자기술 산업법도 지난 5월에 법률을 개정하고, 또 이제 기존의 연구개발 지원사뿐만 아니라 양자와 인공지능의 융합, 그리고 연구 성과의 산업화, 그리고 양자 보안 체계의 의무화, 국방 적용 등 여러 가지 규정들을 보완하였습니다. 다음으로 먼저 양자 종합계획에 대해서 자세히 설명드리겠습니다. 양자 기술로 넥스트 AI를 선도하는 대한민국이 어떤 비전입니다. 여기서 넥스트 AI란 양자 기술, AI, 그리고 슈퍼컴퓨터, 그리고 첨단 네트워크가 결합된 차세대의 어떤 혁신의 기반을 의미합니다. 종합계획은 양자 컴퓨팅 그리고 통신 센싱 이 주요 기술 분야에 대한 전략을 포함하고 있습니다. 양자 컴퓨팅 분야에서는 어떤 풀스택 양자 컴퓨터를 개발하여 100개의 양자 AI 융합 활용 사례를 챌린지형 사업으로 추진을 할 계획입니다. 양자 통신 분야에서는 국가 핵심망의 양자 암호 통신 확산과 또 위성 기반 양자 암호 통신 실증을 진행할 예정입니다. 마지막으로 양자 센싱의 경우에는 바이오 센서, 또 자기장 센서 이런 것들을 활용한 어떤 GPS가 없는 무 GPS 항법 시스템 등 이런 기술의 산업 국방 분야로의 상용화를 신속하게 추진하려고 합니다. 이를 뒷받침하기 위한 4가지 기반 전략으로 이제 혁신적인 R&D 제도를 개편하고, 또 양자 클러스터를 조성하고 인재 양성과 전략적인 국제 협력을 포함하고 있습니다. 다음으로 양자 클러스터 구축 계획입니다. 한국 정부는 어떤 산업계, 연구계, 학계 협력을 기반으로 지역별 주력 산업과 연계한 K 퀀텀 클러스터를 구축하고자 합니다. 클러스터는 크게 3가지 기능을 수행할 예정입니다. 먼저 양자 기술의 산업화를 위한 연구개발 실증 인프라를 제공하고, 이걸 지역 주력 산업에 적용될 수 있는 어떤 양자 기술을 개발하여 어떤 생산 공정이나 이런 곳에 실증해서 양자의 어떤 이득 사례를 창출할 계획입니다. 둘째로는 양자 기술을 기반으로 하는 어떤 창업한 스타트업이 더 이제 성장하고 스케일업해서 유니콘으로도 성장할 수 있도록 하기 위한 어떤 여러 가지 스타트업 투자자, 대기업, 수요기업까지 협력하는 생태계를 강화해 나갈 계획입니다. 마지막으로 양자 산업이 지속적으로 성장할 수 있도록 전문 인력을 양성하고, 또 클러스터 간 협력 체계를 구축하고, 또 해외의 어떤 여러 가지 클러스터들과의 협력 체계도 구축해서 양자 산업의 어떤 혁신 성장을 좀 확충해 나갈 계획입니다. 한국 정부는 이제 올해 3개를 선발하고 2030년까지 추가로 2개를 더 선발해서 5개를 집중적으로 육성할 계획입니다. 저희가 양자 클러스터를 통해 추진하고자 하는 핵심 전략은 양자 전환입니다. 이는 이제 기존 양자 기술을 기존 산업에 적용해 새로운 기회를 만들고 혁신을 가속화하는 것을 의미합니다. 금융 분야에서는 어떤 포트폴리오 최적화나 어떤 실시간 리스크 분석, 그리고 생명과학 분야에서는 신약 후보 탐색, 또 통신보안 분야에서는 도청과 사이버 공격에 강한 차세대 네트워크 구축 이런 곳에 이제 활용을 할 수가 있을 것이고, 중요한 것은 이러한 것이 이제 단순히 기술 시연에 머무는 게 아니라 실제로 어떤 유용성 있는 어떤 그런 가치가 있는 그런 기술로 좀 더 발전하고, 또 이게 실제 국민들이나 어떤 모든 사람들이 체감할 수 있는 성과로 이어질 수 있도록 해야 할 것입니다. 그래서 한국은 이제 양자 클러스터를 중심으로 어떤 지역 수요 기업과의 연계를 강화해서 이를 국가 전반의 산업 생태계로 확산해 나가고자 합니다. 그리고 이러한 양자 기술의 산업적 활용이 뒷받침되기 위해서는 어떤 국가적인 인프라가 뒷받침이 되어야 합니다. 지금 양자 컴퓨터나 이런 것들에 대한 접근성이 좀 제한되는 상황이기 때문에 이런 것들을 좀 잘 접근할 수 있도록 지원을 해줘야 됩니다. 대표적으로 이제 양자 컴퓨터와 이제 슈퍼컴퓨터, 인공지능을 다 연계하는 어떤 하이브리드 인프라를 어떤 구축을 해야 합니다. 이러한 인프라는 서로 간의 어떤 각 장단점을 상호 보완해서 기존 연산의 한계를 뛰어넘는 어떤 새로운 혁신을 창출하는 기반이 될 것입니다. 그리고 단계적으로 이런 공공 인프라를 확장해 나갈 것입니다. 먼저 우리나라에는 국가 슈퍼컴퓨터 인프라가 한국과학기술정보연구원에 있는데, 거기 키스티에 있는데, 이곳에 아이온Q의 어떤 이온 트랩 양자 컴퓨터를 도입해서 이걸 상호 연계하는 그런 사업을 진행할 예정입니다. 이걸 통해 이제 잘 산업계나 연구계에 개방해서 양자 컴퓨터에 대한 접근성을 높이고 활용 사례를 발굴할 예정입니다. 그리고 또 국내에서 다양한 연구개발 사업을 통해서 초전도나 중성원자, 또 다양한 양자 컴퓨터를 개발하고 있는데, 이렇게 개발되는 컴퓨터를 계속해서 연결해서 여러 가지 인프라를 상호 연계할 수 있도록 그렇게 할 예정입니다. 그리고 이런 것들이 계속 집중될 수 있도록 국가 알고리즘 허브를 구축해서 이런 것들을 각 수요 산업에서 잘 활용할 수 있도록 지원해 나가고자 합니다. 그리고 이러한 인프라가 이제 우리나라뿐만이 아니라 해외 각국에 있는 예를 들면 G-QuAT라던가 NQCC 이런 여러 가지 인프라들과의 연계를 통해서 국제 공동 연구나 이런 공유, 그럼 여러 파트너십이 이루어지길 기대합니다. 양자 기술은 이제 아직 초기 단계이지만 이제 경제 산업 안보에 미치는 파급력이 매우 크기 때문에 정부의 역할은 이제 그런 인프라를 구축하고 또 생태계를 조성하는 데 있다고 생각합니다. 한국은 앞으로도 여러 파트너 국가들과 협력을 해서 이런 양자 분야 공동 연구, 인프라 연계, 산업 활용, 표준화 협력, 이런 오늘의 포럼의 전반적인 주제에 관해서 같이 협력을 확대해 나가고, 또 오늘 이 포럼이 그 앞으로 그런 협력이 강화해 나가는데 기반이 되기를 기대합니다. 이상입니다. 경청해 주셔서 감사합니다.
Thanks a lot. It's a huge pleasure to be with you this afternoon and to speak a little bit about what we are doing in Europe on quantum. The main message to start with, if you hold this back after the end of this little presentation, is that Europe is a place where a lot in quantum is happening. We want to make Europe a leading place for quantum, but we are open, so we want to cooperate with others. We would like to invite you, your companies, your researchers to work with us, because we believe that quantum is really a topic which works best in international cooperation. So I will now highlight a few of the initiatives what we are doing, just to give you a bit of appetite and interest in what's happening in the EU. So perhaps there's as well something in for you. Here you see a bit our quantum landscape, our different initiatives. We had a quantum strategy last year, and this is a bit what we're doing. It starts on the left-hand side with the research, which we do under this flagship, where we have as well strategic research agendas. And we build then here on digital skills. And we drive, and this is a bit the focus now, we drive from the lab to the market. So our focus is now to bring quantum a bit out of the research and to bring it into market and commercialization. And here we have some applications which are particularly promising. It's just examples. Sensing, quantum sensing, and EuroQCI, so quantum communication. At the same time, we are preparing the infrastructure for quantum. So we have the European Chips Act. We have just proposed version 2, where we will develop quantum chips, and we have already started to do so. And we have the EuroHPC, so the European High Performance Computing Joint Undertaking, and here we as well work together with the quantum community, and we integrate quantum computers. Here you see this, I zoom a bit deeper in this aspect on the computing. Here you see what we do under EuroHPC-JU, so it's a long abbreviation, but in the European Union we love abbreviations, so you have to bear with me. Here you see what we have done. On the left-hand side, we have already integrated 6 quantum computers as hybrid computer in our supercomputing centers. And this works very well because they can basically solve challenges which are very difficult to solve with classical computer, and we have 2 quantum simulators. And you see here a little bit what we are, the size is 600 qubits, 650 qubits in total, 120 million of investments. And we want to drive this further because this EuroHPC-JU, this community, will as well in the future support the development of quantum computing. That's one of the targets, of the objectives of this endeavor, so to bring these quantum computers to the market and to develop as well market opportunities for them. So that's really what we are working on there. The other use case I mentioned is EuroQCI, the quantum communication infrastructure, a secure communication infrastructure throughout Europe. I was very pleased to see yesterday here in Korea that you as well building this infrastructure. We could witness ourselves that you all already have the NSA certification. We are working on this, and we have a commitment from our 27 member states who have signed the declaration on a quantum communication infrastructure across Europe in order to boost European capabilities. And this is indeed something we want to do because we think it's a very good use case, because we now need use cases for quantum to bring it to the market, where we can, with quantum key distribution, we can show that we can enable secure communication with quantum, and we can bring a first use case. And of course, this will prepare the future quantum internet, which is the medium to long-term objective behind this initiative. Later this year, and it's one of my key tasks, we will prepare a European Quantum Act. And I was as well quite pleased to see that you in Korea, you have already a Quantum Act. We will now do in the European Union the same. And the idea is that we want to create a comprehensive legal framework for quantum so that we can bring quantum to the next level, so that it really becomes a priority where we, starting with the research, what I saw showed on the first slide, up to the industrial application, we can ensure that the whole ecosystem and value chain is developed in Europe. We have an example for this, the CHIPS Act, where we have done the same, and enabling and empowering legislation which will provide one concerted action and one framework for a technology which we consider to be key, because as it was said this morning by the Deputy Prime Minister, we indeed think that quantum is the next big thing after AI. It will reinforce AI and will be followed because AI will as well bring us to the limits of classical computing. This Quantum Act will be built on 3 pillars. And you see here the Greek temple on the right-hand side, which we like in the European Union. As a classical construction, it looks very solid and it's very classical, and we use it quite often for our acts. But it's here, I think it shows as well that we want to be comprehensive. So we want to start with pillar 1, with reinforcing our work on R&D, on research and development and innovation. And here, the key is that we want to pool resources between the 27, because we think we can really, the challenges are too big for each of us, so we have to do this together to be efficient. And we want to move more to a market-based approach to commercialization, so we will work, for instance, with challenges probably, so where we will give concrete tasks to be solved by our researchers and undertakings. The second pillar will be to enable quantum made in Europe, to create a market for quantum and to bring the first quantum devices to the market. So here we will try to integrate and upscale pilot lines where you can then test and deploy your devices. We will improve the quantum industrial readiness. We will try to support our quantum companies by creating a market, for instance, through procurement, because we think that procurement is quite important as a market, and our public authorities, our public sector, but as well telecom, water, electricity could be used in order to then be the first customer for these innovative products, which we could then, from the union as well, support. And that, of course, includes dual-use products. And the third pillar will be a pillar where we want to monitor and to protect a little bit our sector, because on the one hand side, we want to understand really what is the value chain, who are the key players in our value chain, And we want, of course, to see as well dependencies, because the value chain are very complex, so we want to understand better what happens and where we may need to intervene to keep our key players in Europe and to protect them if there are disturbances. I don't want to finish, so I'd now try to show you what you can do in Europe. And here is the place where you can discuss all this in Europe, because after this wonderful conference, I think the next big, wonderful quantum conference will be the EQTC, which we organized together with the Irish presidency in November in Ireland. And here you see a little bit what happens there. There will be a big gathering of the quantum community together with the Union and the 27 member states. And what we will do here, you find it at the bottom, that's something new. We will launch the quantum vertical exchanges, where we want to bring together developers, buyers, validators, and investors. So that's as well an idea we have in order to boost the commercialization. That's a new element which we hadn't done in the past in quantum conferences, but we hope that this will be a success, and I hope to see a lot of your faces there. It would be our pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be back here at Quantum Korea. What I'm going to talk about today is the foundations we've built in the UK to date and what the next phase looks like as we accelerate towards deployment. So over the last 12 years, and that's how long our quantum program has been operating, we've invested approximately £1.2 billion. Now, what's quite amazing about this program is we've managed to match this with private investment. So 2.4 billion has been spent over the last 12 years. And what has this money bought us? It's bought us a single national system. What you see here is 5 quantum research hubs, all spread across the UK, all focused on different technology areas. We have our National Quantum Computing Centre, which is testing modalities today to understand which quantum computing type we want to purchase as government. And we have our National Physical Laboratory, which does all the work around testing and evaluation. But how our system works is you can be close to any one of these hubs and you're accessing one single network. And what we've bought with our money, well, we're number 2 in the world now in terms of a number of quantum companies in the world. We're number 2 in the amount of private capital we attract. And also, out of the top 5 quantum clusters in the world, 3 are in the UK, 1 is in the United States. So we're doing quite well. Now, we talk about some of the challenges, and you'll hear this through the different speeches. And here are some of the challenges I think we're jointly facing. The first being around market demand. It's a still very nascent sector. Companies don't yet have that flow of cash through a customer base. The second challenge is around investment and patient capital. These companies need extraordinary amount of money to scale up. The third is around infrastructure and access, and simply there is a capacity challenge here, and no single country can build all the infrastructure needed. Skills, talent, and workforce will remain a challenge, but actually less so with quantum physicists. What we need is quantum engineers, and this is a key challenge for us. And finally, around standards, how do we create and shape the future markets? And the UK is responding to this challenge. So we've announced 2 billion of funding into quantum technologies, 1 billion of which will be spent in the next 4 years. So this is over doubling the amount of funding we're spending each and every year. In addition, we've set aside £1 billion just for procurement of quantum computers. So this money is set aside, it's ready to deploy. How we're dividing this funding up, we've divided up by missions. So each of the quantum technologies areas will continue to get funding. So 500 million for quantum computing, but for quantum networking, and for quantum sensing and PNT. But we need to drive adoption as well. This is why we initiated last month the Quantum Growth Alliance. This brings together our end-use sectors. So we have the likes of BP, HSBC, Barclays Bank, Rolls-Royce, all working together to showcase to their sectors that they're using quantum technologies today, because ultimately they're going to be the biggest investors into quantum technologies. We're also continuing to invest in the foundations needed across skills. So we spent £100 million on skills last year. We're topping that up, but specifically focused on centers for doctoral training and giving them commercialization skills. So to help early PhD students start thinking about how they turn their ideas into businesses. We're also investing in infrastructure, £90 million, and international partnerships. That 40 million is ready today, and it's ready to be deployed even and especially with the Republic of Korea. And finally, we launched our Procure program. And this is where I want to go into a little more detail. How are we making the choices of what quantum computers are we going to purchase? This is a three-phased program which has already been initiated. The first phase is around deploying funding to help companies build credible prototypes. So this is £14 million contracts going to individual companies, and this will take place over the next 2 years, an evaluation process. Phase 2 is around developing scaled prototypes. This is where we up the funding, and for the winners of Phase 1 who get through the benchmarking process, we'll start to down-select and award up to £75 million of contracts to help quantum computer companies to scale. And then the final phase is around procurement. And I want to be very clear here that actually the UK wants to have the best quantum computing capabilities. This actually means that phase 3 is going to be open to the world. So just because you're not in phase 1 and phase 2, actually phase 3 is a completely separate procurement program where we're actually going to start purchasing the best quantum computers out there. We'd like it to be a UK company, but it won't necessarily be a UK company. But I mentioned the funding challenge as well. So what we have now launched is an end-to-end capital stack. So at each stage of your company's journey, you are supported with funding. So we have our National Security Strategic Infrastructure Fund, which is focused on providing minority equity stakes in some of the most interesting and emerging quantum companies. We have our British Business Bank, which is crowding in private capital to help companies to scale. So $4 billion of funding is just for emerging technologies. And finally, the National Wealth Fund. So this is around that patient capital, long-term funding. So £27.8 billion is a capital base for this final stage. However, we'll hear this again and again, that no country can deliver this alone. In fact, I would go further to say that the UK cannot deliver this without the Republic of Korea. And these are the 4 key areas that we have identified for collaboration. The first of which is around benchmarking. We're all trying to answer the same question. And you have benchmarking programs in the UK, in Canada, in Europe soon. And we're all going to be trying to find the answer. Wouldn't it be great if we actually share our findings and work together on that answer? Secondly is around future standards. Standards create future markets. This is why countries need to be working together on shaping those standards. The third is around supply chains. The UK will never be a fabrication base. And this is where we see real opportunities in the Republic of Korea around manufacturing, around fabrication. And equally, the UK has strengths in the likes of photonics and testing and evaluation. This is where we can provide support as well. And finally, end-use sector investment. So I want to work together with other countries, with other such alliances, to start to go out to end-use sectors, end-use sector conferences, and showcase that quantum is here today, and we need them to be investing in quantum technologies. I have to correct my European Commission colleague. Actually, the next best conference in quantum is happening in London on the 6th of November. So please do come along to that. We have 2,000 people who do attend each and every year, and would welcome a strong Korean delegation where we can show you our National Quantum Computing Centre, our National Physical Laboratory, all our strengths here in the UK. But then, please do feel free to go to Ireland on your next step of your journey. Thank you very much.
So I'm very happy to be here. And firstly, I'd like to join the competition of the exhibition. Japan will have a quantum innovation event in December, starting from 8th of December. So this EU and UK is also best, but Japan has also one of the best events in December. And luckily, there is no time conflict on the schedule-wise. Therefore, everyone can join every tour, so accordingly. Thank you very much. Anyway, today I'm introduced about the G-QuAT activity, which is one of the Japanese interesting quantum strategic activity. Japan has total 12 quantum innovation hubs, and the left-hand side is more institute, and the right-hand side is more university side. And Riken is the headquarters of these quantum innovation hubs. And AIST, particularly G-QuAT, which is the division name of the AIST, is working for the creation of a global quantum ecosystem, support R&D in industry sector. This is our mission. Therefore, we are more applied research. We are not producing a quantum computer by ourselves, but we are more close to the industry about the challenge toward the future, how to scale up the qubit, or how to create a use case appropriately. So this is our mission. Therefore, we are working together with industry and partners. This is AIST's organization structure, which is maybe a little bit busy. And the left-hand side is, this one is AIST's organization. AIST has more than 100 years history, and we have already existing 7 industry fields for research and development. And in addition to these 7 research category, we add Quantum Center in 2023. The purpose of this adding Quantum Center in here, AIST, is to collaborate with these existing sectors in order to create appropriate use cases. Therefore, you see these are our research teams, which is containing total 9 teams, and each team has its own colors, which collaborate with these categories. Therefore, each research team works together with these existing industry R&D teams accordingly. And actually, last year was a kind of birthday year for G-QuAT to establish the building and all the operations start running. Therefore, lots of events happening. But I'd like to highlight 2 remarkable events. The one is this one, IEC-ISO JTC3 Tokyo meeting. And Tsukuba is one of the place of these meetings. And we are very honored to have this big, important meeting in Japan in last year. And the second one is multilateral dialogue on quantum at G-QuAT in September. Most of the speakers are kind of friends through these MDQ activities. And I heard this October, Korea will be the host country of this MDQ. And we believe it will be a big success with your big hospitalities. And we are very eager to take part in this MDQ meetings. Okay, this is the inside of the G-QuAT. So what we are doing now. Our mission is connecting people, ideas, and resources to create global business and innovations. Therefore, our capabilities and our resources must be open to the shared value countries and partners. That's why, so we have already started to get access from the venture capital, national project, global companies and organizations, enterprise, universities, research institute, and incubators. Why they are gathering to here? Because all these capabilities are at one place. This is a uniqueness compared with the other institute in the world. Fabrication services, large-scale test bed, and 3 types of quantum computer and GPU-based HPC. All of them are available at one place. So this is a best place for the test bed and evaluation toward the creation of the industry. So this is what I believe. And this is the inside of the G-QuAT capabilities. Yeah, for instance, quantum classical hybrid computing infrastructure, which names ABCIQ. So we have total 4 systems. The first system is System H, which is GPU-based HPC. We have integrated NVIDIA H100 to more than 2,000 units available in this GPU. And this HPC is dedicated for the hybrid calculation with quantum computers, such as Fujitsu superconducting quantum computer, QERA neutral atom quantum computer, and OptoQC, which is a Japanese startup company spin out from the University of Tokyo, optical quantum computer. These 3 are working together with HPC. And the second one is the evaluation test bed, which named QBED. We have a variety of the refrigerator, including large refrigerator, which name is KIDE, that is from Brussels. It's available at one place. And the bottom load type of dilution refrigerator will squeeze the test time because bottom load type can save the time to keep the minus temperature as fast as possible. And the third one is nanofabrication services, which QFab. So once again, these three services are at one place. This is our uniqueness. And we are also very much good at for the standardization activities together with Chris, for instance. And so as I mentioned, we have conducted JTC3 meeting. And one of our management person is a convener of the quantum computing benchmark activity. So this is my last slide. So as a proof of the openness, we have already signed the MOU with 27 organizations. But we know MOU is just the beginning of the conversation. It's a piece of the paper. Therefore, more real activity is important. So we have invited these companies into our building. These companies set up the office in our site. Furthermore, we have some collaboration framework activity with the European Union, which name is QNECO project. That is HPC plus QC technology to find out the appropriate use case under the EuroHPC plus Japanese SIP budget. So we want to have this type of framework with many of the partner countries. So yesterday, or day before yesterday, we had a very interesting conversation at Chris, the workshop, second workshop. And we agreed to find out more deep dive conversation to do the framework activity. So let's do this action. So action is now. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. This is actually my first time being in Korea, so thank you so much for the warm hospitality and the warm welcome. Not to contradict my honorable colleagues, of course, but if you're not tired from traveling the globe to those other conferences, there are excellent ones available in Canada as well. Our Quantum Days is in February, so I have to put in the plug for those opportunities. When I travel around the world and I ask, what is Canada known for? Quite often the answers I get are winter, maple syrup, Justin Bieber. Okay, that one got better, that's great. Drake, hockey. And now after this presentation, I hope quantum will be part of the answer. What we've done in Canada is we launched a national quantum strategy a couple of years ago. And in it, we focus on 3 specific missions. You can see those along the top left-hand corner. One in quantum hardware and software, one in communications, and another in sensors. Nothing too surprising there. Most of my colleagues in their countries have similar foci to their different strategies. What we're looking to do, though, is to achieve certain advantages in each of those, in particular to make Canada a world leader in the development and deployment of computing hardware and software, and we actually have a number of world-leading companies that I'll talk about in just a second, in quantum communications, a secure quantum communications network, and post-quantum cryptography, and then in sensors for the government to be developers and early adopters. So also hitting on that adoption tone that some of the other presenters have mentioned. In terms of the getting better known for quantum, we have a number of world firsts. You can see those on the slide. We co-developed quantum cryptography protocol, with Gilles Broussard and American Charles Bennett. Also, the first commercial quantum company, D-Wave. Those of you who are in the quantum space will know that D-Wave is actually re-domiciled to the United States, but at the time they were so in Canada. First dedicated quantum software company with 1 qubit out of British Columbia. And then the only startup company to have demonstrated computational advantage, which is Xanadu. So we also have 115 companies and not-for-profit organizations within our ecosystem. So 115. That's quite a remarkable number for the size of Canada. Second highest numbers of SMEs globally. We all sort of, just like a quantum is neither here nor there or this and that, we all contest these numbers. In some studies, some is number 2 and some is number 4, but that's okay. We're certainly within the top couple. Second, in terms of the global ranking in computing startups, the number of workers employed in our industry is about 3,000. It's up a little bit from that number on the slide. And the first global revealed technological advantage. So our researchers, so that's on the commercial side, our researchers are also producing half the publications in the top 10 journal percentiles, almost a third in the top 10, and nearly all of the quantum research papers are collaborative. which is interesting. So it goes to show what we've been discussing already, that quantum isn't singly a game for any one country, but all of these need to be supported. Of course, none of this happens or comes without funding or without money. The government has invested over $1.2 billion Canadian over the last decade or so to enable this. Most recently, we had launched the Canadian Quantum Champions Program, or this is what we call the CQCP, which is intended to support Canadian companies as they advance towards fault-tolerant industrial-scale quantum computers. Many of you in the room will be familiar with the DARPA QBI program. There are actually 4 Canadian quantum companies that are participating in QBI, and so of those, we are supporting them through the Canadian program. If I go over to the next slide, you can see our ecosystem, which, if you're familiar with Canadian geography, many of these things look sort of close together, but it is quite a vast country, thousands of kilometers from side to side. So Calgary and Edmonton are not actually closer to Greater Vancouver in any meaningful sort of way. You can see there some of the enabling technologies we have and some of the companies that are there, as well as the universities. We'll talk a little bit more about some of these clusters in the following panel that we'll have. So I won't go into any greater detail, except to point out that we have these 4 from coast to coast. Some of these you may have heard of, in particular the ones around the University of Waterloo, perhaps in Sherbrooke, as well as in Vancouver and in Calgary. Most of these are centered around a university, and an ecosystem sort of grew out of that university. I should mention as well, Quantum Industry Canada, or QIC, is our national industry association. They're here with us today, so Philip Lafrance, I don't know if Philip is here in the room, but he's certainly here at the conference today. We also brought a dozen Canadian quantum companies to the conference here in order to take advantage of networking and other opportunities with our Korean partners. And so there's also a Canada booth, which is right in the corner of the stage. So if you're interested in learning more about those companies, please feel free to come by. We're Canadian, so we're friendly. We're happy to describe all of the different opportunities that we have available. To switch for just a second from domestic over to international, many of you perhaps have heard of the Canadian Prime Minister Carney's speech at Davos, where he talked about the world changing. The world certainly has changed. And so one of the things that's most important for us is to establish partnerships with like-minded countries and to deepen those partnerships that we have, including here with Korea. I would note, by the way, it's also the 10th anniversary of the Canada-Korea Science and Technology Agreement. So we're not a Johnny-come-lately by any stretch of the imagination. We've been collaborating for quite a long time. And as well, we had some great discussions with the Korean government and with the Industry Association and others over the last couple of days, and we hope to continue those. Point out for the G7, so during Canada's G7 presidency, we launched the Kananaskis. So Kananaskis is a town in Alberta. The Kananaskis Declaration on Quantum Technologies, which built on the work of the MDQ and the QDG. One of the funny things about doing this kind of job for a while is when Tommy and others show those pictures, it shows us sort of aging through the years as we go to all these different events together. So there's no better example of international collaboration than the fact that we all know each other and we all do these events together to build those multilateral collaborations. We also have some joint NRC, NSERC, and these are Canadian acronyms, research calls, including some with Korea. The NATO, so the North Atlantic Treaty, the Transatlantic Quantum Community, very active in that area. We have other multinational dialogues. Tommy mentioned the MDQ, the Quantum Development Group, also led by colleagues in the United States, the OECD, and the World Economic Forum. So Canada's quite active in all of these. And then maybe I'll just highlight, in the interest of time, highlight some activities under Horizon Europe as well as Eureka. In 2027, Canada will be launching a Eureka call in quantum technologies, and that gives a great opportunity for collaboration amongst our countries. And then last but not least, as I said, we brought a group of a dozen companies here today to participate in the conference and look forward to future discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today. I've been to Korea before, and I love coming back here again. And thanks for inviting me. So today's topic, as I'm going to be describing how Australia has been translating its research capability into quantum industry growth. Now, nationally, to date, I think this number has changed, but there's been about $60 billion worth of investment from both private and public sectors into the quantum technology sector. Similar to many nations, and my colleagues in front of me here as well, Australia sees quantum as a strategic imperative alongside artificial intelligence and semiconductors. Just in the last year alone, we have invested more than $1 billion USD, just this to help Australia further retain its position as one of the leaders in the space, as well as to grow the strong foundations in research and commercialization. Internationally, we have 2 cities currently recognized as a quantum cluster, Sydney and Canberra. And quantum clusters means there's higher number of startup activity, high number of investments, as well as strong government and research capability support. To further build on this, this strong foundations, in 2023, Australia designed its first national quantum strategy. The strategy is pretty straightforward. It focuses on infrastructure, commercialization, R&D, standards, and so on. Very similar to many of the strategies globally. Quantum Australia was born in 2024 to help execute on this national quantum strategy. We are a joint venture of 13 universities. We are a non-profit organization funded by the federal government. Our mandate is to grow the R&D commercialization areas of quantum. And to do that, we have 3 business units. Our first business unit is ecosystem development, because awareness building is a very key part of quantum technologies to be adopted. Second is partnerships. Use case development is a key focus for the partnerships team. And finally, we have our new ventures fund, which aims to support entrepreneurs and startups to help their ideas become investor ready. So over the last 25 years, Australia has invested more than 2 billion Australian dollars into the ecosystem. And because of this early investment, for example, the early center of excellences, it has resulted in more than 40 quantum businesses being founded over the last couple of years. And also we are top 10 globally in terms of talent capacity. And we have several research organizations and institutes focused on quantum and across the stack. In terms of commercial, there are several companies that are currently exporting globally across computing, sensing, communications, and supply chain. We have Quintessence Labs exporting their QKD and cybersecurity products overseas. We have Quantum Brilliance recently setting up their Diamond Quantum Foundry in Victoria. We have Q Control going leaps and bounds in quantum error correction, control, and quantum sensing, having notable partnerships with Lockheed Martin and so on. And we also have Silicon Quantum Computing and Dirac, the 2 Australian companies currently part of DARPA's Quantum Benchmarking Initiative. And this is quite an important program because it's a very rigorous program to achieve the holy grail of the utility scale quantum computer. Now, Quantum Australia has been quite busy. Just in the last year alone, we have supported 17 companies in their establishment. We have facilitated more than $50 million worth of research and industry collaboration, both locally and internationally. And we have facilitated more than 100 partnerships as well. One of our key programs is the New Ventures Fund to stimulate the growth and leverage all the capability and the strong foundations we have. This program is fundamental. It's divided into a pre-accelerator and an accelerator. A pre-accelerator is just an 8-week program that's designed to help entrepreneurs test whether their idea is worthwhile pursuing, so early stage market validation. And accelerator is more in-depth commercialization support. It's 20-week intensive program where you have entrepreneurs in residence and so on. The main key thing here is to help the companies go from 0 to 1 and become investor ready either in the seed round or Series A. Now, that's the supply side. The key and most important part is the demand side. Without the demand, we are just building all these technologies with no use case. So Quantum Australia is actively involved in engaging with end users, in supporting their journey in adopting quantum technologies. And these are some of the sectors that we look at: resources, agriculture, life science, and so on. So we do this by three pathways. We have our industry series program, which is more awareness building. It's to essentially covers the security lens of computing, as well as the use cases depending on the sector. Our second program is our strategic briefings, where it's bespoke to a company, and essentially we bring together parties together to discuss some areas and depending on their needs and their awareness stage. And lastly, our Quantum Solutions workshop is key in use case development, and mainly effectively is a technology scouting mechanism for companies that already have these business use cases. We have our industry capability report. It was designed with our colleagues in Australia, and it basically provides an overview of all the quantum companies and research organizations collaborating internationally and exporting. So feel free to download this to get an overview. A few of them are here at our Australian Embassy booth, so please feel free to come by and check them out too. Now, we have our conference as well, and it's happening in February, where the sun is shining in the southern hemisphere. We are having it in Sydney and Canberra in February. It'll be great to have you all, so I warmly invite you all to the land down under, and yeah, hopefully we can connect further in this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here in Korea. It's my first time here, and I'm really enjoying so far. So also a big thanks to the Quantum Korea organization, really smooth organization, so thank you for that. I see some familiar faces, but also a lot of new faces. So I would like to tell you all a little bit about Quantum in the Netherlands and QDNL as an organization, and how we try to create this quantum industry. So a little bit of history. QDNL is the national quantum initiative in the Netherlands, national program, and it was founded in 2021. We are established to carry out the Dutch national quantum agenda that was launched back in 2019. And we are a non-for-profit, so a bit similar to Quantum Australia in that sense. And we are basically the orchestrator and facilitator in the quantum ecosystem in the Netherlands. So we really try to connect industry, the startups, academia, government, and our international contacts together. And our main mission is to then, of course, gain long-term economic and societal impact through quantum technologies. So geographically speaking, this is what the Dutch quantum ecosystem looks like. So we have 5 different hubs in Amsterdam, Leiden, Delft, Eindhoven, and Twente. So most quantum activities happen within these hubs, but there's also other quantum activities happening outside, but these are the main hubs, so to say. And as you can see, these hubs have kind of their own specialty. So depending on what you're looking for, you can get in touch with a hub and they can, of course, help you further. But in that sense, the hubs are really complementary to each other in the Netherlands. A few strengths that we have in the Netherlands, well, scientific excellence. We've seen some numbers and stats already in the other presentations, but we are ranked 2nd worldwide in quantum science. Following on this strong academic and scientific base, we have now 37 quantum companies in the Netherlands. It says startups, but some already are scale-ups by now. We're very strong in hardware, especially the Delft local ecosystem is very big on hardware. We also have some companies present with us today in the Netherlands booth. So Quantware, Delft Circuits, and Qblocks are with us today. Internationally, we're very well connected. We are also strong in quantum internet and communications, photonics for quantum, And then the triple helix. That is also really something that stands out for the Netherlands, and QDNL plays a big role in this as well, to really facilitate the contact between research, industry, and government. And of course, backed by a national program with government funding of 615 million euros. So yeah, that all leads to a very vibrant and well-connected quantum ecosystem. Then a little bit more about our organization. So how do we structure ourselves? You see the 3 blue blocks over there, and this is kind of similar to what you've seen in other presentations and in other national programs as well. So we focus on the areas of computing, communications, and sensing. And within these focus areas, we always make sure that we invest in human capital. I think that's something that's really important for most countries here, and also it can be a challenge, of course. How do you gain talent, how do you train talent, and how do you keep talent? Then infrastructure and shared facilities. So in the Netherlands, just to give an example, we have the House of Quantum Concept, which is a shared facility for quantum startups. It's basically just a physical building, but this building makes it possible for startups that spin out of the university labs to find their first office. So they have office space, but also lab space. And the House of Quantum team makes sure that the lab is plug and play ready and tailor-made to what the company needs. Of course, we invest in startup and IP policy. Basic science is still very important, and there's still, of course, a lot to be done. And lastly, I think, and I really want to highlight this one, is societal impact and community building. This is maybe a little bit different from what you see in the most national programs. We really put a lot of focus on the societal impact of quantum as well, because we believe that this technology will at some point impact everyone's lives and the society at large. So to really take into account ethical, legal, and societal aspects is something that we find really important. Then, just a few examples, because this was maybe a bit abstract in a way. So for R&D, if we still, I just said we still invest in basic research, of course. We want to establish a challenge-based program. That's what we're working on right now. Then the shared facilities, for example, I already shared a bit about the House of Quantum Concept, and maybe also good to know we have 2 buildings in the Delft ecosystem. Both are already full, but there might be a 3rd building coming, and it's also open to foreign companies and organizations, as long as you're in quantum. And then in Leiden and Amsterdam, we also have locations, and we're working on the 2 other hubs in Eindhoven and Twente. Human capital, so as I said, we are very eager to work on our talent base in the Netherlands. So we have established the talent and learning centers. And these centers are specifically focused on educational programs. And this is not limited to universities. This goes all the way back to primary schools up until master's degrees, for example. So that's something that we're very proud of as well, especially since we also believe that we do not only need quantum experts and physicists in the future, but also a lot of engineers and technicians, for example. Then societal impact, I already spoke a little bit about that, but one thing that we established was the Center for Quantum and Society, and this center also is very much focused on a lot of societal programs and events, and they even fund a lot of PhDs that are focused on quantum communication, not in the technical sense, but really how do you communicate quantum to a larger public. Of course, international collaboration, the MDQ was mentioned a few times already by my colleagues on the first row. And lastly, I do want to claim the spot for the best event in 2027. Quantum Meets in Amsterdam, 3rd week of May. You're all very much welcome to join us at our annual event. Then, where are we now? The 3rd phase, phase 1 and 2, was really much focused on accelerating research, startup growth, and also visibility, just to make sure that people know what we are doing in the Netherlands. But the 3rd phase is really focused on industry and commercialization. And we really believe that this is the moment to shift that focus, and that the coming few years will be very important for us. I would like to end with an international slide. I've seen my colleagues speak about this as well. There are a lot of initiatives that we're working on. We have a lot of bilateral agreements, and we think that quantum is something global and will remain something global. So I would like to end with that. Thank you so much for having us here, and eager to connect with you all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. 안녕하십니까? So my name is Charles, and I'm here with my colleague Raphael, and we're here in our limited time trying to present what we do in France, what's our strategy, what's our objective, and how we can further enhance our cooperation with Korea. So firstly, I wanted to present a little bit about the French ecosystem. I'm proud to say that we have an excellent fundamental research, and this was highlighted by 4 Nobel Prizes in quantum physics in the last 15 years. We have large research organizations, we have world-class laboratories, such as the very large computing center that's hosted by CEA and GenC, just south of Paris. We have research organizations such as CNRS or CEA that are large at the European level, and I'm proud to say that they're first and third beneficiaries of Horizon Europe. We have companies that are supported at different steps of innovation with government funding, a very clear roadmap. And those companies are very ambitious, they're large scale, they cover the whole value chain, and 2 of those companies are actually here in Korea for this exhibition, such as Candela or Pascal, so feel free to join and see their booth. So our national strategy was established in 2021. As you can see, it's around €1 billion on research and training, but also on computing. So we have different programs, which is Proxima, that my colleague Raphael is going to present a little later. And we also have this hybrid quantum infrastructure, so trying to mix those high-performance computing with quantum computers to enhance capabilities. And the last part is enabling technology. So this is how we can cover the whole value chain for quantum. Our strategy was updated in actually 2 months ago in 2026. And as you can see, we decided to add more funds to research, give an R&D boost to this Proxima program, but also invest in middleware and software to really cover this. Part of our strategy is well aligned with Europe, and as my colleague presented, and so we try to develop co-funding actions, whether it is for bilateral calls, but also in the European programs such as Horizon Europe, the EuroHPC. And since 2021, so what we've done, we've mobilized more than €1 billion. We installed 3 quantum computers. We created more than 20 startups that have raised more than €600 million. It's nowhere near our American colleagues, but still it's something that we try to do and try to ameliorate. And we have seen an increase in master students and thesis, which is also very important. The core of our strategy is also training new talents and bring those talents to work in the quantum field. And so what's ahead? The road to 2030, we're trying to reach this target of €3 billion invested in quantum technologies. Actually, next year, we're hoping to install our first fault-tolerant quantum computer. So this is something that's really going forward. And finally, we're still trying to train those talents. And so we target the training of more than 5,000 people. And like Raphael.
Yeah, thank you. Let's say, so Charles has sent it. I think there are 4 keywords that you should remember for the first part of the presentation. I would say the first is the financing. So France has this financing system for the startups. So the startups manage to raise money to build their businesses out of the public research, academic research. And second, we have this technological, know-how, in terms of quantum technologies. Charles presented that there are a lot of different competing technologies, photonics, superconductors, or neutral atoms, and other stabilizing technologies. So France has this technological know-hows. And third, business development. So France knows how to develop businesses. There are successful startups, expanding worldwide, from France. So that's business development. And finally, the labor force. So France has academic institutions and research institutes that build future talents. So these 4 keywords, so financing, technology, business development, and labor force, or let's say key words for France. And now we have these 2 flagship programs, which are first at the academic level, so fundamental research and applications, which is the PEPR Quantique. And the second one is a Proxima, which is more, let's say, government side, more like applied technologies, especially. So in France, we want to build 2 champions. So this is like a DARPA style program, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. So the French Ministry of Defense invests 500 million euros over 5 years to have different startups competing with each other, and finally they will choose 2, let's say, champions that will provide supercomputers to the French government. So these are, let's say, 2, let's say, flagship programs that are carried out by the French government. And of course, I think with France and Korea, we celebrate a very special year today, this year, which is 140 years of diplomatic relations. So there are, let's say, the alignment of planets from the top to the bottom. So from the top, there is a political will from both presidents, like President Emmanuel Macron and President Lee Jae-myung, to collaborate further in the field of AI, quantum, and semiconductors. So these are, there was a declaration of intent signed during the last presidential visit to Korea of the French president to Korea last April. And they're also from the bottom, there are a lot of collaborations which are already happening. So it's not a future collaborations, but it's like present, current collaborations. So we have 2 let's say, successful startups, Pascal and Quandela, established in Korea since 2024 and 2025, respectively. They have a strong relationship with, let's say, Seoul Metropolitan Government, Daejeon, City of Daejeon, and City of Daejeon for the local governments, and also with the research institutes like Yonsei, KAIST, ETRI. So these collaborations are happening right now, and we want to push further this cooperation between France and Korea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. 안녕하세요. Good afternoon. In Denmark, we have this saying that when you are the last of something, you are the raisin in the sausage end. And I am your raisin today, the last speaker. I will give you a very brief snapshot into the Danish quantum ecosystem and the Danish strategies. I only have 7 minutes. Even though we are a small country, I have a lot of slides. I have to remove a lot of them. So you will only get a little bit of peek into what's going on in Denmark. But before we go too much into what's in the strategy today, I wanted to start with this guy that I think most of you would know, Niels Bohr. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics back in 1922 and really started the whole Danish quantum ecosystem with his Copenhagen school. And he also founded what's known as the Niels Bohr Institute today, which is the hub of the Danish quantum ecosystem. In the 1920s and 30s, Niels Bohr gathered all these rock stars of quantum physics around him in Copenhagen, at least all these European rock stars of quantum physics. You have a picture here. I cannot name who they are, maybe you can, but there were a lot of the most prominent scholars came to Copenhagen and openly debated quantum science and different theories. This is just to say that the Danish quantum strategy and the Danish quantum ecosystem is based on hundreds of years of science. We are not starting from scratch. The reason why we are where we are today is because we had researchers who, independently of government strategies, wanted to discuss these things with each other and collaborate openly for furthering science. And I think that's actually still really relevant to bringing quantum science to the next step today. Is we need this open conversation between research communities to work together to find the next step. If I then bring us back to today, this is very much on the top of the political agenda in Denmark. Quantum is a whole-of-government approach. We have multiple ministries involved. We have, of course, the Ministry of Science, which is responsible for all the scientific activities. We have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs involved in the whole collaboration part, very important. We have Ministry of Defense, of course, because of the security aspects here. We have the Ministry of the Legal Affairs for the areas around this part, and also the Ministry of Business and Industry on the commercialization part. And I think what's really a cornerstone in the Danish quantum strategy and approach is this very close collaboration between the different ministries, but also between the different stakeholders in the Danish ecosystem, both public and private actors. So a few years ago, back in 2023, we launched a Danish national quantum strategy. Actually, we couldn't make do with one strategy, we had to make two, so we have a part 1 and part 2. The first part focused more on the research area. It had three main areas, which was more long-term and strategic investments in research and innovation, enhanced international cooperation, again, bringing back the importance of collaboration, and also improved access to infrastructure. There's a QR code here if you want to go more into the different strategy. The second part, which was launched the same day, looked more into the commercialization aspect. So that was launched by a different ministry, the Ministry of Industry and Business. Again, an area was the commercialization efforts. How do we bring this to the market? Another area was the security. And finally, again, international cooperation as a core focus area in the Danish strategy. Going back also to our starting point from this board, when we launched the quantum strategy, again, we were not starting from scratch. We were already doing quite well, or I would say really well. In quantum science, we have world-class basic research within areas such as quantum physics, photonics, materials, and computers. And we also have research environments that are really strong within communication encryptions and sensors and chemistry. Again, we're a small country, about 6 million people, so I think you need to put our numbers in perspective of our inhabitants. But we have about 100 PhD graduates every year in quantum. We think we have the highest number of students in quantum science per capita. I don't know how they figured out this number, but we do have a lot of students in quantum science. And we are doing really well in attracting talented researchers to Denmark, but actually also really innovative companies. We are also having a very strong participation in the European collaboration, the European research projects. A little bit older figures here that a lot of our publications have international co-publications. And we are estimated, again, a really nice round figure here, to be among top 3 in EU grants related to quantum science. Denmark is quite small, so it wouldn't make sense to show you how all the different clusters are located, because mainly the cluster is around Copenhagen. So instead, I'm going to show you here where our quantum research is being done, which is a little bit more differentiated over the country. So we have, of course, a really strong environment around Copenhagen with the University of Copenhagen and the Niels Bohr Institute, but also the Technical University of Copenhagen and the Danish Fundamental Metrology, which is very similar to CRIS here in Korea. We also have strong environments, a little bit smaller in size, in Aalborg University, Aarhus University, and University of Southern Denmark. And that also means it's relatively easy to get an overview of the Danish quantum research ecosystem, because there are not a lot of stakeholders. It is a select few institutions. I didn't bring the map of all our companies and stakeholders, but they are all, or most of them, located in the Copenhagen area, which is quite small, so it's very easy to get from point A to B, which also makes it easier to collaborate across organizations. One thing I do want to mention is the fact that we in Denmark benefit from having a number of corporate foundations. I think most of you probably know Novo Nordisk, the big pharmaceutical company. Novo Nordisk is actually owned by the Novo Nordisk Foundation, so some of the profits of Novo Nordisk go back into the foundation, and we are lucky enough that the foundation is investing these profits into excellent science. And that used to be more on the life science area, but now they're going increasingly into areas that can support the quantum areas. So they have invested in the NQCP, the Novo Nordisk Quantum Computing Program, with a $200 million USD investment to establish or lay the groundworks for Denmark's first fully functional applicable quantum computer. And the deadline or the ambition is to have this ready by 2034. When we look at the international collaboration, we have different areas here where we look at how to collaborate. We have, of course, the regional cooperation that takes place in the European Union and with our Nordic colleagues. We have the bilateral cooperation with MOUs with different countries, such as US, Japan, Canada, and the UK, and also the research and innovation cooperation with different countries, including Korea. We have our multilateral dimension, also including the Eureka, where we had a Danish initiative call for applied quantum in 2024 and again in 2025. We have our NATO dimension with the transatlantic quantum community. Invest in Denmark is working more on attracting international companies to Denmark. And then finally, we have the Innovation Center Denmark, where I'm from, where we work to build bridge between Denmark and leading quantum hubs across the world, including here in Seoul. In the first quantum strategy, international collaboration and research was one of the main focus area. And we have a number of countries that we have prioritized in the strategy. Some outside of the EU, this is Australia, Canada, Israel, Japan, Korea, Switzerland, UK, and US, so a lot of the countries representative here today. And this has now materialized in an open call, for those of you interested, on collaboration opportunities with institutions in Korea, Japan, and Canada, where quantum is one of the 3 topics you can collaborate on. And the deadline is coming up in September, so if you have any interest in working together with the Danish research institutions, I would advise you to check out this open call. I also want to mention the International Quantum Summer School, which was established after our National Quantum Strategy. So this is funded solely by the Ministry of Higher Education and Science. The first round was last year, when it took place at Niels Bohr. This year it's taking place at the University of Southern Denmark. It hosts about 70 PhD students from around the world for 2 weeks program. And we mainly recruit students from the countries that we have prioritized in our national strategy. That includes Korea, and I'm happy to say we have 9 Korean students accepted for this year's cohort, so we'll have 9 students going to Denmark in August, where they will meet up with talented PhDs from some of the other countries. We also have a number of new master programs in English to also focus more on the workforce development. Again, these are open to international students, so if anybody's interested, check them out. And finally, I wanted to mention Quantum Denmark. This was established again as part of the national strategy. It's a hub located within Innovation District Copenhagen, so right in the core of the Danish quantum ecosystem. It is, I can say, a location of Danish and foreign startups within quantum. So Danish startups can open an office there, but also foreign startups can choose to establish themselves at Quantum Denmark. We already have a number of international startups based at Quantum Denmark. And they have also recently established facilities in the basement that you can use for testing some of your own solutions. And I think that brings me to the final slide. If you want to discuss more on collaboration opportunities, you're welcome to reach out to me and my colleagues. We are based here in Seoul, so it's easy to find us. And since there is a trend about talking about international conferences, I just want to mention that we are hosting the Q2B in Copenhagen in September 9 to 10. So, while you're packing your suitcase for all the other places you have to go to, consider bringing Copenhagen into your itinerary. I think it'll be great fun. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. We are happy to share the core quantum national strategies. Thank you. Yeah. So we don't have much time, so we will speed up. Yeah. Today there are many important things to do together as a nation. So I wish we could share more details. I will each speaker question individually. Please 3 minutes. Okay. And first, I will ask EU, Killian. Yes, Korea has recently been participating in various Europe programs, so Quantera and EU Horizons. Could you the directions and vision of EU future quantum R&D programs more detail? Yeah, please. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. As I tried to explain in my introductory remarks, we really think that quantum is a key strategic priority. So we think it is crucial for our competitiveness and our sovereignty that we continue to lead on quantum and to work with our partners. So we want to have this Quantum Act by the end of the year, and this will complement our tech sovereignty initiative, which we just launched in June. In this, we see a comprehensive strategy. So we want to continue fundamental research, because quantum still is largely a research topic, and a number of things still need to be solved from a technological point of view. But we want to create as well the first use cases, and we want to bring them into practice and into commercialization. And this is, we want to move more from the lab to the fab. So that is a stronger angle we have now. And that will be one of the focus areas of our research. So we want to work with challenges. We want to really get companies to develop solutions. For instance, fault-tolerant quantum computing could be one, or solutions for sensing, and we want then as well to help them with innovation procurement. We don't want to do this alone, so we think the cooperation with Korea has been proven very successful for both. We would like to continue this under the next research program, FP10. So we look very much forward to having Korea there as a partner state. And we invite you really wholeheartedly to join our EuroHPC JU, so our joint undertaking for high-performance computing. There are already other third countries there, like the UK, for instance, is joining us. And this is, I think, very good, so that we join forces there. So we are open to continue this cooperation. We think it's in our mutual interest, and I think we follow there the same objectives.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question. So could you tell us your vision for cooperation with Asian countries, including South Korea? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should join then for instance, our research infrastructure. What I just mentioned, we will build, we are thinking about pilot lines, we are thinking about further quantum computer. We will, I mentioned this in my slide presentation, the quantum computer we have already installed. But as well further projects on this. So research projects, how to, because what is now as well for us a challenge is to create complete applications where quantum can be used and can be industrialized. And there we trust you. I've seen now your ecosystem. I think we are very much aligned on the different aspects in which we look, be it quantum sensing, be it communication, be it computing. So I think there is a lot of things we can there do together, and we would like to have more of these open calls and cooperative calls, what we had now. I think we have launched last year 3 calls, and that was very successful. So we would be more than open to continue this and to extend this collaboration.
Thank you. Josh, we met last year, right? Nice to meet you again.
We did indeed.
Okay, I have one question. Korea is also continuing discussion with the UK regarding international collaboration of quantum technologies. So what do you think about key points of recent updated the UK's national visions? Could you tell us?
Absolutely. I think every government needs to be really clear what it wants, really needs to communicate this. The work we've been doing in the UK, we set out our 5 quantum missions, and underneath that, our quantum roadmaps. But also very clear within the supply chain What are the parts of the supply chain does the UK want to own? And what is the parts of the supply chain do we need to then negotiate access to? So we've done this across our quantum technology areas. And particularly when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to fabrication, these are areas that the UK is never going to be strong at. We have 90 million of funding for infrastructure. That's going to buy a very small fabrication facility. So it's much better that we work with our closest partners. And this is an area we see one of the key opportunity areas with Republic of Korea. I'd also add relationships is really important too. This is why continuing those academic exchanges like we already do between CRIS and MPL is exceptionally important. Because actually those relationships is what opens business between our two countries.
Thank you, Josh. To Japan, Hiroaki, yeah, I have questions. I'm very impressed by the Japan's rapid progress of the research and the industrializations together with the government side and academia side, industrial side. So are there any strengths or specialties of Japan's national strategies and its a strategy for industrialization of quantum technologies?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the point is both government, institutes, academia, and industry are very close and tight connection, unite. That's a kind of keyword, the Japan's ecosystem. For instance, I'm still a member of the QSTA. I'm working for the QSTA activity. And also, I'm joining the MDQ meeting, which is a part of the government activity. Also, I'm an institute member. And QSTA, which is a Japanese quantum consortium, is also working very good job to increase the number of members. I think currently around 160 or something member companies. And the interesting is half of them user companies, which is not quantum like a supplier or capability developer. It's more like an intention to use quantum into the daily life. So that's a very uniqueness. Therefore, we have one goal to how to apply quantum into the daily life, which is our uniqueness, I think.
I have one more questions to Hiroaki. Yes. Could you mention the effort for the applications or use cases based on quantum computer and supercomputer hybrid systems?
Okay, it's maybe too early to mention, but that's because we just started running its operation. And we are now trying to increase the number of use cases by having a ABCIQ challenge, which is our like a challenge name. That is, we are collecting a lot of application and we select some of them and we provide the calculation resource, for example, 3 days free of charge calculation. So that's one of the unique challenges we are providing. And also we have some startup companies from the Japanese ecosystem, such as Qnasys, JIJ, or QMix. They are working very hard to develop a lot of quantum computing algorithms and softwares. And they are part of the national program, such as SIP, which is a strategic innovation program conducted by the Japanese Cabinet Office for use case creation. And G-QuAT is a place to do this activity as a test bed. So therefore, again, so as I mentioned, the first question, we have very united, let's say, community and working together. So this is a uniqueness, and this application creation, use case creation, thanks to this united connection is driving. We are driving very fast. Yeah.
Thank you. So Michael, are you enjoying Quantum Korea?
Right. Absolutely.
Yes. Yesterday we had a great meeting and discussions. Korea have signed MOU with NSERC and NRC in coming October to promote international cooperations. So this year, joint call will start, and we expect this to mark the beginning of full-scale bilateral cooperations between two countries. Could you tell us success stories for promoting regional quantum cluster, such as Quantum Valley? Yeah, you know. Yeah, this means strategies to connect the national strategies with the regional cluster and create synergies. Okay. Could you? Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first thing to know, certainly about the clusters in Canada, is we didn't set out to create them on purpose. What we did set out to do was to fund researchers at various educational institutions, in other words, universities. We gave them a fairly large amount of money to start out, and so they did, and they went out, they did excellent research, and basically the ecosystem grew around them. So just to be clear, this wasn't something that the government set out saying, we're going to create a cluster here and plan to do it and create it. Rather, it grew organically, and then we as the government chose to provide additional support to make it grow. I am unaware, certainly in Canada, I won't speak for colleagues, certainly in Canada, I'm unaware of an example where the government can create a cluster where one doesn't exist and it is successful over the long term. Perhaps that exists, but I'm not aware of too many examples. Lots of the other example where it exists and it grows and it can be created. Also like to point out the clusters we have aren't unique. Almost all of the other presenters described in one form or another clusters in their country. One of the challenges with them is that frankly, not everywhere can be a cluster. And so depending on how large your country is and how much disputing there is between various regions of the country, once a technology becomes successful, think AI, think quantum, think semiconductors, every region or every area of the country is going to want their own cluster. To be successful, and this is what we found in the Canadian context, the cluster has to be a certain size and scale. And so you may have heard of the University of Waterloo. There's a cluster around that, and I showed that on my map earlier, as well as in Sherbrooke. So this is these are based around a university, the University of Sherbrooke in Montreal and Quebec, Toronto, as well as in Calgary and in Vancouver. Now what's happened over time to make these successful is not only did they have the researchers then went out in order to create spin-out companies. And that's probably the way it occurred in many other countries. And those spin-out companies grew. So that's sort of where Xanadu, Photonic Inc., and a number of our larger companies sort of came from. SB Quantum in the sensors world came out of that way. And so in terms of policy, we have the strategy, of course, and it prioritizes providing money to researchers and to organizations. We have not as yet provided specific funding to specific clusters. We've given them overall missions, and then they're working together. Actually, representatives from our Quantum City, which is our Calgary hub, came with us today on this mission. So we're glad to have them here. But maybe one of the other sort of the success factors and the ingredients, I'd say, is that you need an anchor, or what we used to call, so if you think of shopping malls, right? The shopping mall needs an anchor tenant or a major tenant in order for it to be successful. I would argue a cluster is the same way. So our cluster, for example, in Bromont, Quebec, or in Sherbrooke, Quebec, it includes an IBM packaging plant as sort of an anchor tenant, if you will, to the Teledyne Delsa is there as well. So these organizations kind of make those clusters glow, provide the engine to drive them forward. It attracts more companies, and then they grow. But of course, you need the researchers and the talent initially to supply the hub. The hub grows, you get more firms, it becomes more globally known, and it creates.
Thank you. It will be very helpful for Korean quantum clusters. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again. Australia, Rish, I have questions. Could you point out distinguished points of your national strategic gain and strategies to become a leading country in the industrialization of quantum technologies?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me on this panel. So Australia has really good fundamental research in quantum. Over the last 25 years, the ARC Center of Excellences and the resulting funding of the Center of Excellences has produced several startups. And when the federal government decided to make these the current national strategy, it was to further grow on these foundations. And for Australia, for many of the other sectors, and many of my colleagues here in their countries have managed to capitalize on the success of their research and commercialize it. Now, Australia doesn't want to miss out on this, and so the National Quantum Strategy is designed for Australia to continue to retain its position and to further increase the number of success stories. And for companies to go to 0 to 1, they need a lot of support, and international collaboration. And this comes from infrastructure, talent, capacity development, and quantum is very complex. It's a very, quantum computing, for instance, there's the whole stack. You need proper fabrication, calibration techniques, algorithms. It's a very complicated thing, and no one country can develop this. And so the National Quantum Strategy was designed to help facilitate a lot of these entrepreneurs and provide them the necessary support for them to not only deploy the technology locally, but also going global.
Thank you. We will move on Netherlands. Nice to meet you, Anna. Right. In 2025, I attended the Q Expo in Amsterdam. So at that time, I'm very impressed by the Netherlands' specialized strategies in core field, and it's a high level of technical development. Yeah. So could you explain the role of quantum delta NL, QDNLs, and considerations for linking quantum technology and investment and commercialization for further growth in detail? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Thank you. As I mentioned before in my presentation, QDNL is the orchestrator of the Dutch quantum ecosystem, connecting startups, industry, government, academia, and international stakeholders. So that is really the role that we have taken up in the past few years. And in the past few years, we were really focused on research, on the startups, on spreading awareness about quantum inside of the Netherlands and outside. And we've been pretty successful at that. So now that we are really shifting to commercialization and industry, our role will actually remain as it is and will be no different from what we've done before. I think that it is still very much needed for our ecosystem that there is this central orchestrator and coordinator for the ecosystem when it comes to industrialization. And of course, we need to do that hand in hand with our local, our national government, and with our international stakeholders. And just like earlier mentioned in a few presentations, we really believe that quantum cannot be done in isolation. The Netherlands is only a small country. We cannot do everything ourselves. So therefore, we need to share our technology and collaborate with other countries. But with sharing technology, there's also, of course, this national security angle to it. So how do you balance that? How do you share your technology, develop together, but at the same time protect your technology? And for that, we really need strong, like-minded partners in that. I think the current geopolitical context is ever-changing, especially nowadays. So therefore, it's more important than ever to be well-connected with, for example, the countries that are here in this panel today. So when it comes to the role, that will really remain the same, and we will continue to do so as we've done before. Some considerations. So what we do consider for this next phase, this next step as QDNL is to really focus on long-term reliable investment and funding for our companies. I think that's number one. We've been very lucky to be backed with a beautiful an amount of money from our government, but of course that is not enough. We have our own investment fund, Ground State Ventures, that helps us and supports us a lot in that. And other than that, also talent, what I also mentioned before, it's something that will become more and more important. So we need to keep on investing in our talent pool. And lastly, also, industry. We need to connect to our industry, and we need to inform different sectors such as energy, finance, life science and health, for example, and so forth, what quantum can do for them. And for that, we are currently developing a challenge-based program. So it's not final yet. I'm just giving you this sneak peek. We're working on it, and we hope that that will help us in this next phase to our industry focus.
Thank you. You mentioned shortly about technology protections. If you don't mind, can I ask one more questions? Yeah, okay. Please comment for balancing strategies of international collaboration at the point of view of technology production. It means national security. Is it possible to answer?
So our view on technology production, you mean?
Protection.
Protection, yes. So, yeah, I think, to be honest, that will be a very diplomatic answer. It is not only up to QDNL to, of course, decide on how we arrange that in the Netherlands. For that, we also work together with our national government and with the ecosystem. What is feasible? What are the needs and interests? As well as what are the needs and interests from our government. And I think that QDNL is the one to translate both worlds to each other and to put things in context. But in the end, it will be a balancing act. And to be honest, it is a very complicated issue and something that we are also still working on as of now.
Yes, I understand this question is a little bit difficult to answer, right? Okay, the reason why I asked this, recently the technology protection and export control is becoming hot issues globally, so I asked. Let's move on to Denmark. Ini? Denmark? Oh, Denmark, yes. In 2025, also last year, Korean delegations attended EuroQCI를 2026 in Denmark. Denmark also hosted a roundtable. We had a significant, productive discussion, right? Yeah, okay. We are always grateful for your dedication for help. Yeah, thank you. Could you tell us the strategies to secure quantum technology leadership in Europe and globally, and core points of national quantum strategies? Yeah.
Thank you.
About leadership
Thank
of
you.
Denmark.
I wish there was one simple answer to it, because I think there are multiple approaches you need to take. And it also goes back to some of the points that was mentioned before. First of all, as I also said in the presentation, Denmark is a very small country, 6 million people. It makes sense we cannot go it alone. I don't think anybody can, but we definitely cannot. So our international collaboration is really important for maintaining where we are, but also enhancing and going to where we want to go. And I think that's also why international cooperation was mentioned in both the two different national strategies that came out in 2023. But another area where is increasing importance in Denmark, but also I think in Europe in general, is the commercialization part. So as I showed, we are building on excellent basic science in Denmark, and I think across these countries there are really strong research communities, but we all need to be able to take it to the use case scenario and also the commercialization scenarios. And this is where the Danish government is really putting more effort. I mentioned the Quantum Denmark, which is going to make it easier for companies to have a location, even the smaller ones, and use facilities. I also mentioned the public-private partnerships and the collaboration we have with the private corporations, the private foundations in Denmark. So the NQCP, the Novo Nordisk Quantum Computing Program, is just one example where one of our private stakeholders have really channeled a lot of funds into enhancing and further developing the Danish quantum ecosystem, and that's really important because they are playing with funds that is actually a little bit beyond what we are playing with from the government side. Another area that's worth mentioning, and I didn't mention in the presentation, is the venture funding. So within the last year, we established the 55th North, which I think is the world's biggest quantum venture fund. And again, this is a collaboration between Novo Holdings, which is part of the Novo Nordisk family, and the EIFO, which is the Export and Investment Fund of Denmark. And this is really to take both the Danish but also international companies to the next level, to see how can we also make Denmark an attractive hub for foreign companies to come in and locate themselves in Denmark. Because again, we need both the research talent, we need the young talents to come to Denmark, we need the companies, and in that way we're actually all competing a little bit about the same talent, but hopefully also collaborating in some ways.
Okay, thank you. Last year, when I visited Denmark, EQTC 2025, in opening ceremony, someone spoke. The origin of quantum is Europe, because Denmark is Niels Bohr's hometown, right? Yeah. However, U.S. on the money. So this is very important thing. So leadership is important issues for all EU nations. I understand it, right? Okay. Yes. Next, France. Charles, right?
Raphael.
Oh, Raphael. Sorry, I'm sorry. Raphael. Could you point out the core or key points of national strategies of France? More detail.
Yes. So France has successfully managed to pass from academic research, scientific research, to industrial applications with the business development, such as we have the successful startups I mentioned again, present in Korea, such as Pascal and Condela. So they so we managed to build businesses out of academic research. So that would be maybe the first step in this area. But what I would add is that there are still many things to do more. We have, for instance, we need to go further in terms of commercialization and industrialization, because just like going to take an example of the dot-com bubble, when we build the internet, broadband, these kind of lines, when we don't have any uses, applications out of it, we got this kind of a bubble in the early 2000s. But after a decade, when we had this kind of applications and users using this technology, we got this new tech giants and people. So what I think is that today we have different emerging technologies such as quantum technologies, AI, but also space in the space area. And what I think is that we need to go further to build industrial applications to bring these emerging technologies to the real end use, and I think that would be the core side of the French strategy. Namely, that's what we mentioned, the two flagship programs during our presentation with the PPP Quantique, which is to enhance the research, and we have this Proxima, which is a DARPA-style program, which tries to build real applications out of these emerging technologies. And maybe to mention two other points. Second, the first point is that we need more international cooperation. So I think we all agree on the fact that we cannot do it in isolation, but we need to do it internationally with the others, try to really kind of promote these technologies. And for instance, for France or for many European countries, we also need kind of Korea's manufacturing capabilities. So I think there is a high complementarity in this area between the European, let's say, sometimes software side and Koreans' manufacturing capabilities. And the second side is that we need more kind of a harmonized framework. And that's, I think, the aim of the EU Quantum Act that, DGCNECT presented us in the early presentations. So with this kind of a harmonization of framework and with this international cooperation and with this building of industrial applications, I think these are, let's say, the core strategies of France, and I think that matches also the development strategy for many other countries.
Thank you. So we will take a few questions. Please, from the floor, please introduce yourself. Yes, and indicate the person you would like to hear from. Okay.
I am Jinny Kim, the director of the K-Quantum International Cooperation Office. Yeah, we all agree that the international collaboration is very important, but in reality, if we have some student exchange program between Korea and the EU, it is very difficult to get visa, and it takes a very long time for a researcher came from the Korea to the, some country in EU and get settled down. So is there any way to make the system more easier and reduce the paperwork?
Any questions? Killian? Let's see.
Thanks a lot. This is, of course, a very important point. I mean, in principle, we work on the European level. I think we had a number of initiatives to simplify this a little bit. I think it was called Blue Visa, or if I remember correctly. But we tried to introduce for scientists or for people with advanced skills to facilitate this. So it is on our radar that, in particular for talent, to attract talent to Europe or to come to help us do research or to work with us. So we try this, but you have a point that this is certainly not yet perfect and that we should continue the efforts. Obviously, this goes always in both directions. We hear as well sometimes from our researchers that it's not so easy to work in partner and cooperation countries. So it would really be good if all partners who, and I think we all subscribe to international cooperation, would try to facilitate the bureaucracy to receive researchers or postdocs or young collaborators and to send them as well.
Thank you. So, any other questions?
If I may add something
Okay,
to
sure.
the last point as well. I think the paperwork question, this equally applies to trade as well. So, one day you're trading quite nicely in quantum technologies, and the next day, export controls, and you're having to fill in numerous paperwork to get a license. Every single trade. It is ludicrous. Yet we do have mechanisms in place to make things easier. We have open general export licenses, for example. So I think we need to do a lot more to listen to industry, to really understand what levers we can pull collectively to reduce the barriers to trade. We use the terms trusted and like-minded. I think we need to prove it.
Thank you.
Just to be precise, what I meant was the blue card. And the EU blue card is, you need a number of requirements, so you have a higher education, a job contract, and a certain salary. But that is there. But I agree with you, we can reflect whether we can even do more. But we have already this initiative on the blue card, because it's in our, I think, in the mutual interest that we facilitate this.
Any other questions? So we have 7 minutes. Okay, one more question. Okay, thank you. We had a lot of valuable talk today. So please, final remarks or comments for audience. So if there are particular aspects expected in cooperation with Korea, yeah, please emphasize them once again. Yeah, from Annie to Killian. Okay, okay.
Yes, well, my final remark would be, the Danish quantum research ecosystem is very open to collaborating with Korean counterparts. And I would really encourage you, if you have the interest, to seek out new partners, and maybe also, as I mentioned, use the open call we have available right now that can actually fund the first steps of collaboration. That would be my final remark.
Yeah, I would say also the same. I think there are three, let's say, the messages I mentioned. So first, like build industrial applications is necessary, and we need to do it like via international cooperation, and France is open, and French players are in Korea, and Korean players are interested in the, let's say, in the French market, but also in the European market. So I assume that we have many things in common that we can build together. And finally, let's say that let's work together on the harmonized framework, like we are doing at the European level with the EU Quantum Act, but like even more like the international level, we can do something together. So let's say that would be my three, let's say, key messages before closing. Thank you.
So for QDNL, this is our first official visit to Korea. So we're here really to learn from the Korean ecosystem, to see what strengths you have, and to see where we could collaborate in the future. So I've already learned a lot yesterday during the presentations in the morning, and I would love to meet many more of you. So please feel free to come to our booth, the Dutch Pavilion. It's just next to the Canadian. pavilion. It's A13, I believe. So feel free to come by and have a chat.
Yeah, no, I just echoing a lot of what was said on the panel. Quantum is a team sport. When I first started, in this area, in this sector, those were the wise words that was spoken to me, and it's still ringing true. And I think Korea has some incredible capability in manufacturing, industrialization. I think a lot of the countries over here, can do with a lot of that support. So I think going forward, based on trust and practical outcomes and complementary strengths, I think a lot of these nations, and also Australia is part of Horizon Europe, coming 2027. So a lot of my colleagues here are also are part of that initiative. So I think we can do quite a few interesting pilot projects and so on. Thank you.
I think I'd pick up on some of the same themes that my co-panelists have mentioned here today. I would, and what Josh said before is exactly right. It's about trust, I think, but it's also about trust at multiple levels. So the first level is, do governments trust each other? I think amongst the countries on this panel, certainly, and certainly our hosts, I think that's true. But then it's okay. Do researchers trust each other? Individuals, I think so. Not everyone, probably. And then we go to companies. Companies perhaps have more to lose in terms of trusting someone with their intellectual property, with their partnerships and others. So the question becomes, how do we build trust amongst our businesses, amongst our researchers, and indeed amongst our countries? One of the ways to do so is to do joint projects and activities like the calls you mentioned between Canada and Korea and of course others, Horizon Europe, of course, Eureka, and those. And so I would argue the best way in something like quantum is to start out small. It's not a huge industry globally. It's not a huge number of researchers. It's not a huge number of companies comparatively. And so to get those joint activities, those joint cooperations going, even at a lower level or a smaller level, get people comfortable with each other and then working, getting people to know each other. It's hard to trust someone you've never met or you don't know. And so conferences like these are a great way to bring people together to build that trust. And then for governments, it's up to governments, I think, to establish the mechanisms that we just discussed in order to get companies and researchers working together.
2 days ago, when we visited Chris, we had a very interesting conversation between researchers in Chris and G-QuAT. And one interesting topic was that typhoon simulations. Yeah, recently typhoon is getting bigger and bigger and much harder and harder, and it's attacking to Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, and so on. Why not gathering our power into one place to have a more clear simulation by the quantum CAE, computer-aided engineering? Although it requires huge calculation resources, that's why I didn't answer as one of the use cases. It's still too early, but yeah, why not, gathering our capability into one place to attack against typhoon? So that's my proposal to work with Korea. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh.
Thank you. Actually, building on what Michael just said, relationships do matter, but so does money. We have £40 million available for bilateral activities. Republic of Korea is a priority partner for the UK, so let's start doing something together.
Thanks a lot. I can subscribe to most of what has already been said. I think you mentioned this about the money which is in the US. I mean, we all see here that I think Europe and the countries who are here best represented, we have a lot of strengths, and we have researchers, we have startups, we have a nice ecosystem, but we have difficulties in scaling this up and then really competing when it becomes a market and when it becomes really rough. And we know that there are 2 big blocks in this world who are better sometimes in this. So I think quantum, we should not miss that, and we should not miss this industrialization and scaling, and we should not leave it just to those with perhaps deeper pockets, even if we, of course, like to work as well with them, but we should as well do our own thing in our own market. And therefore, it's important that countries of a similar size or a union come together and to create as well a bit of a counterweight. and as well work in particular on this industrialization. And that is, I think, what you said is very right. Korea has a lot of complementary strengths on industrialization, and it could help us to move from research and development and from small design and conceptual work into industrial scale. And therefore, we should really work this together, and then I think we can find a good place in this future quantum economy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. We mentioned export control and visa permission and residence permissions shortly. So this is realistic issues by national security and technological bloc. So I think, I believe it is very important we continue to build a friendship and trusted relationships and engaging continuous discussions like this. So today was a great starting point. So I'd like to level, as mentioned this. Okay, that concludes our discussion. Thank you. With close, yeah.